Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Muhammad, this is Heavy Metal FPL, and in this video I'm gonna review Game Week 14 and quickly prepare for Game Week 15. Quick recap of the week. We started off with Arsenal 2, Wolves 1. Hwang Hee-Chang blanked in this game, but on the score sheet was Odegaard in addition to Saka, and we got 2 assists for Arsenal, one from Tomiyasu and one from Zinchenko, who a lot of people brought into their team, and turned out to be a good pick at least for now. Later, we had Brentford with 3-1 versus Luton. So Mbomo got an assist for this game, but Pinnock blanked. A lot of people brought him into their team, and also Flecken, Brentford's goalie, blanked because Luton got 1 goal. Later, we had Burnley versus Sheffield United. Now, I started Taylor from my team because I figured this would be his easiest fixture, and he was a better option than some of the other defenders that I had as who could be starters on that. So it turned out to be a good choice, and Taylor got an assist, and he also got a clean sheet as Burnley ran riot and they won 5-0. Same goes if you had Bayer instead of Taylor. He also ended up getting an assist and a clean sheet. We also had Everton versus Nottingham Forest. Everton won 1-0, and Pickford got a clean sheet. That's his third this season and his third since game week 8 when I sold him for Areola, who has gotten 0 clean sheets ever since. We had Newcastle 1-0 versus Man United. Trippier got an assist in that, and Gordon scored the goal. He's proving to be a really, really good asset, and I think if you haven't brought him into your team, he should be one of your priorities, though he does have a yellow flag on him as of the moment. I'll get to more detail about Gordon later. We also had Aston Villa 2, Bournemouth 2 on Sunday. So Watkins continuing his good form with a goal and an assist. Cash and Diaby were both benched and they came on later in the game. Cash didn't do anything, but Diaby got an assist for Watkins' second goal. For Bournemouth, Solanke got on the score sheet. He's proving to be a good differential pick, and Bournemouth's fixtures are good in the short to medium term. Chelsea won 3-2 versus Brighton. Now, one thing to note here is that Cole Palmer was benched for this game, meaning he's not as nailed as he thought we were, as we thought he was. And Sterling also blanked for this game. Enzo Fernandez ended up scoring 2 goals. And for Brighton, Joao Pedro did not start, but he ended up coming on and as a sub, and he scored one of the goals for Brighton. Later, we had Liverpool versus Fulham. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, is back on everyone's mind as of now. He scored 3 goals in the last 2 games. In this one, he scored a very nice free kick. He was always advanced, and he scored a second goal to snatch the win for Liverpool 4-3 versus Fulham. Liverpool had Kelleher as their goalie, and a lot of people brought him or are thinking of bringing him in, but he's proving to be a liability for that Liverpool defense. They conceded a lot of goals, which I think were a fault of his own. They shouldn't have been conceding those goals. Some of them were easy saves. Salah got an assist in this game, so he looked good. Nunes blanked, unfortunately, but he could have scored a goal in this game. I still think he's a good pick. The other 2 goals for Liverpool were from McAllister and for Endo. I don't think there's much FPL potential in those. Later, we had West Ham versus Crystal Palace. Now, Bowen started this game, so he's back from injury and he played the full 90 minutes. Crystal Palace lost their clean sheet yet again. Now, I spoke to one of my Crystal Palace fans who's as a friend, and he told me like what the reason for Crystal Palace's lost clean sheets are, and it's because they have a key injury to one of their players, defensive midfielder Decore. That's the reason why their defense has not been as good as it was earlier this season. So for West Ham, the goal from them came from Mohamed Kudus, who's still proving to be a very good pick for them. Later, we had Man City versus Spurs, a very, very exciting game. It proved to be. Now, for Man City, Alvarez got an assist, and Haaland got 2 assists, and he probably should have had a third as well, because later in the game, the referee blew the whistle for what could have been a one-on-one for Grealish and could have won them the game. But whatever. Other than that, we had Son, who announced himself back on the score sheet. He scored the first goal in the game for Spurs, and he also got an assist later, but also unlucky for them was that he scored an own goal. So that ended up minusing some of his points, but I still think this just shows the potential of Son in this game. I got myself a green arrow this week, which was very welcome. I moved about 200k spots with 68 points in game week 14. My team, I think, looks good for game week 15, and but that being said, I do have some weak points which I want to go over. So Ariola has not gotten me a single return ever since I got him in for game week 8, as I mentioned earlier. But I don't see a lot of options in goal who I could replace him for. Now there is Dubravka for Newcastle. He's on everyone's mind now because Pope has been injured and it looks to be a long-term injury. So Dubravka is a good goalie and he's gonna slot in for Newcastle between the posts. But for me, that would block any potential other Newcastle transfers. So I want to get Gordon in, or I want to potentially get Isak down the line. But because I'll have three Newcastle players, that'll make it not possible. And I don't see any other options in goal that could be replacements for Ariola as of the moment, and that's why it's not such a tempting transfer out. Now, I also have Martinelli. He's also proving to be a weak point, but he did look good in their match against Wolves. He was unlucky because he hit the post and he didn't get any return. And Arsenal's attack looked very, very good throughout that match. They looked like they were going to go on a route and score like much more than they did against Wolves. I do want to sell him because looking good is just not enough. Well, there are other players who are getting a lot of returns. But it's hard to do so when he's got Luton away next. My potential transfer for him, I'll get to in a bit. Julian Alvarez as well is a bit of a weak point, but he's also very, very unlucky because I think he looked very good against Tottenham. And he was unlucky not to get the assist for Son's own goal. He got an assist of his own, but there was the slightest of touches on that free kick from Holland, and Holland ended up getting the assist for Son's own goal. So if it wasn't for that, Julian Alvarez would have gotten 2 assists for that game. That being said, though, just like Martinelli, there are other players in this position who are doing much better. So that's why he's looking like a potential target out, especially with Rodri being suspended for the next match. I think Man City's attack is going to be a little bit weaker, and that makes Alvarez less of an option for me down the line. For next week, what I'm thinking of doing is perhaps starting Lascelles instead of Taylor, who I had for game week 14. So Taylor, I think that experiment was just like a week-long one when they had Sheffield at home. But now Lascelles, I think, would be the best option with Mitchell, playing for Crystal Palace and their defense not looking all that good these days. So I will probably put in Lascelles for their match away against Everton. So I've got a bunch of transfer options listed here. Now, before I go into any of these, it's worth noting that I'm leaning towards no transfers this week because I'm looking to save a transfer and gather funds for next week to see how I can maneuver more with my team and improve upon the weak assets that I currently have. But if I were to upgrade on any of them, like if I look at the weak points in my team, this is how I would potentially upgrade them. So first of all, there's Martinelli for Gordon because Gordon is looking really, really good and he has looked good all season. He's actually risen from price initially from 5.2 million to now 6.0 million. That just shows you how much in demand he is and how good his performances have been. Martinelli, he looked good in the last match and he hit the post, but he's still not getting the numbers that we want from him. So he is a kind of a weak link in my team right now, especially when everyone has Saka in their team. I've got the Arsenal asset that's not doing so well. Now, it's hard for me to justify making this transfer right now because Martinelli is going to be playing against Luton away, and Gordon currently has a yellow flag on his team, and there's no news of him. There's no news of him potentially being available for their next match against Everton. So I would be taking a risk if I make this transfer for him. If you have Gordon in your team, absolutely no reason to sell him because I still think there is potential for him to start in the next game. And if you've got a bench option, then even better. That bench option will just come in case he gets benched. Another option is Alvarez at 7 million. So he's looked all right. He looked good in the last match against Tottenham and he got an assist. But I still think there's potential room for an upgrade there. They play against Aston Villa away next, and Man City are going to be without Rodri, which I think hampers their attacking ability. Now, Alvarez, an obvious upgrade to him would be Watkins, who's just been really, really good this entire season, but he is 1.4 million expensive, and I don't have that in the bank. I'm actually zero point 0.0 in the bank right now, so I can't make that transfer right away unless I do a -4, which I don't want to do. Now, Alvarez, right after this week, where City don't look that good in attack, he's got Luton away and then he's got Crystal Palace at home before the blank game week, and both of those are good fixtures. So that's more in favor of me keeping him in my team just for those two very good fixtures. Another option is Alvarez to Nunes. I don't have the funds for that, but Nunes is another good asset for Liverpool, and they've still got really, really good fixtures. There is potential for him to be rotated, though, with Gakpo also being in their squad. Another option, and I could do that this week, is Solanke. Solanke plays for Bournemouth, and he's a good differential striker, and their fixtures are very, very good. But look, Alvarez right now to Solanke or to any of these guys right now just seems like kind of a sideways move, and I'm gonna hold off on it and potentially just roll my transfer for next week. That wraps it up for this video, guys. I'll probably have one more right before the deadline tomorrow. Until then, I will see you all soon.